What's up, YouTube? Tenchi Arizonia, the angry Dracolope of the Jackalope crew here, and this is the third or fourth time, I've actually lost track, that I've tried to record this video. Apparently my camera's got a habit of cutting out at the moment, and I don't know why. So let's try and keep this one short. This is a fishing related story time. And it goes back to when I was around 12 years old. The first few times I went fishing with the same friend on one occasion that I used to go camping with and that I went to the Isle of Wight with. So these events happened way before that, clearly. So the first incident, I will say, because I had a slight mishap while fishing. The first incident was shortly after my grandfather gave me his Egg-to-Sealy Sea Spray fishing rod. A fishing rod that you have seen in a previous video. In fact, two previous videos. So if you're a long-time subscriber, you'll know the videos I'm on about. If you're a new subscriber, welcome. On to the story at hand. At hand being appropriate for later, you'll see why. Anyway, the first incident involves a mistake when getting ready to cast out when I was beach fishing. So what was that mistake? Well, this was after I'd got a reel that would match up with the Egg-to-Sealy, which was a Sea Streak reel. I have no idea who the manufacturer is of those reels, but I forgot to take the brake off to put it into free spool mode, which allows you to cast. While in free spool mode you have your thumb on the spool. Well, I forgot to turn the brake off, and when I went to cast, the line, the leader, reached the end of travel, which was about 10 foot, and then swung back and the weight hit me in the face. The weight I was using at the time was a gripper weight. For those who don't know, a gripper weight is a fishing weight that has four wire tines on it that allow it to stay in one place after you tension the line after a cast. Basically it prevents your tackle from drifting. So yeah, there was that. Yeah, bit of a mishap with that. Smacked in the face with that. It wasn't a breakaway breakaway grip weight. It was a fixed grip weight, meaning that the tines are always in the same position. A fixed position, as it were. And due to that fixed position, the wires are always up like that, in two directions. So two like that, two like that. I was lucky the weight hit me between those positions, so I didn't get injured except for my pride. The other occasion, I went fishing. I'm going to have to make several stories out of this. Can't do it in one video apparently, it's too long. Second time was the first time I went on a charter fishing trip on a boat. Well, on the way out on the fishing boat, and this was my first time on a boat by the way, I felt really nauseous and I ended up throwing up. Why did I end up throwing up? Because that morning I did not take my friend's advice to have only a light breakfast. And I decided that morning I was going to have a fry up. So I had a fry up, and on the way to the fishing spot on the boat, and by the way it took about an hour and a half to get to the fishing spot. On the way there, yet I ended up blowing chunks. Kind of embarrassing, but hey, it happened. Coincidentally, on this particular fishing trip, a few other things also happened. Namely, that I got spiked by a sea bass on 2 occasions, and I ended up putting a fishing hook in my hand, which is why I've got kind of a T-shaped scar on my hand. Really faint, doesn't really show up on camera, especially not in this lighting. I'll see if I can get a picture of it for you guys later to give you some context. Anyway, how did I get the T-shaped scar? Well, this happened on that charter trip. Actually would have been the first cast. Prior to the first cast, we were baiting our gear. The boat rocked as I was baiting one of the hooks. These were bait keeper hooks, so they got 2 barbs on the spine. Boat rocked, I slipped, drove the hook straight into the flesh of my hand. Not very nice. Not least because it was a bait gripper hook and it went in all the way up to the shank, but because I then had 2 options, and the skipper was nice about it. We could have either gone back to the port and had me fixed up at the first aid booth there, or we could triage it there because he had a first aid kit on the boat. I didn't want to ruin the other guy's trips. It was an expensive trip, especially at that time, and it took an hour and a half to get either way, to get to the port and from the port to the fishing spot, and from the fishing spot. So I didn't want to ruin their trip, so instead I decided we'd triage it there, got out my pocket knife, which was a Swiss Army knife, cut the camera hand, 2 cuts, one along the shank and a little short one, so I could just yank the hook straight out, basically a T-shaped cut. So got that out, then put the gauze on my hand, bandaged it up and kept fishing. And this was when I was about 12, by the way, so I was a kid at the time. I'm just trying to get a few light pieces of fuel here. But this is burning well, this stove. It's pretty full of ash right now, but hopefully it'll burn for a little longer. Please. Come on, be nice, fire. Anyway, yeah. Continued that fishing trip after having my hand patched up. And it was a fun fishing trip. About half an hour into the fishing trip, I hooked a bass. And didn't know anything about fishing for bass at the time. Sea bass, by the way, so anyone who's familiar with sea bass knows they have spikes in a few places. First bass I caught, I went to grab it round the back. Spikes in the hand. Nothing major, but hurt like hell, I'll tell you. Again, later on in the trip, this was nearer the end, because throughout the rest of the day I was catching mostly mackerel. Towards the end of the trip, caught another sea bass, thought, right, I'm going to grab it by the gill covers. Seems like a safe place. That's where I can grab other fish. Not so safe. I actually got spiked again when I grabbed it by the gill covers. Lesson learned. Bass have spikes in those spots. I wish I knew that before. I didn't, but hey, I learned it after the fact, so can't really complain. And I've actually been out here longer now than I intended to because of the few issues I've had with recording this video. So that's my 2 or 3 earliest stories and incidents related to fishing. And at the time, and this particular friend, by the way, same one I went to the Isle of Wight and Shaftesbury with, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, he was at a different school than me. Our schools were essentially enemies, so we really shouldn't have been friends, but we kicked it off. Regardless, ended up being good friends for quite a few years. And I really enjoyed spending time with him. And I do have more stories regarding this that I will share in the future. In fact, I'm going to cut this video now and I'll get on to the second part in a minute. So, see you shortly. Okay, and I'm back, and the stove is a little stronger. So, let's give you a bit more background about this friend of mine. As I said, we met when I was... Well, as I said, we went to different schools. Our schools were essentially enemies, so... Schoolyard rules, we really shouldn't have been friends, but we were. And we were good friends for quite a few years, I'll say that. We went camping, fishing, hunting. He actually taught me to ride a bike when I was about 15. Kind of embarrassing that it took me that long to learn, but hey. Anyway, yeah, we were good friends, and after school, his father actually gave me the one job that I actually had in my adult life at a garage, specialising in fixing cars and motorcycles. Now, at the time he gave me this job, I'd actually fixed some motorcycles before. I used to buy second-hand motorcycles and fix them up in this very backyard, in point of fact. So that should tell you how long I've lived here. And that went on for a while, until when I left school, my friend's father offered me a job at his garage, and I worked there for about a year, 2 years, until an event caused me to lose the job. Now, this event wasn't due to me, and I don't really want to go into too much detail about it because I'm still kind of bitter about it, to be honest, because I loved that job. And I was actually being trained up to run that garage. Anyway, as I said, this friend of mine, we'd been friends for quite a long time. Quite a long time indeed, even before we started camping, in fact. He's a good friend of mine at the time. Fun fact, actually, for Nutjob with a Machete, who I spoke with a few nights ago about Hell's Angels. Fun fact, one of the Hell's Angels I knew, one of the Hell's Angels who actually introduced me to Jackal, well, he actually worked at the garage. He was actually a colleague of mine when I was working at the garage. So, yeah, that was friggin' awesome. For those of you who don't know, I may share the Hell's Angels stories sometime, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm not sure yet. Anyway, as you can see, the stove is going strong. Set my prodding stick on fire. Probably shouldn't be using kiln-dried firewood as a prodding stick, but hey. So yeah, those are my stories about my times fishing, a couple of incidents I had, and about how I actually ended up meeting my friend and how I ended up working for that friend's father for a few years, which in turn led me to meeting some Hell's Angels. Probably the most awesome bikers on the damn planet. In fact, I would say they are the most awesome bikers on the planet, at least the ones I knew. Now, there are some bad apples in every bunch, but don't let the bad ones colour your opinions of the Hell's Angels, because from what I've experienced, they have some generally good people among them. And they will bend over backwards to help people. Anyway, that's kind of off on a tangent. I'm not going to extend this video any longer than it is, because I don't want to run out of camera time, and my fuel is just about burnt out. So, that's all for now. If you like it, please subscribe, comment, and share, and remember, be good to each other.
I'm Dracolope, bitch.